And where do you live, Andy?
10 Munsell Street, Hoosick Falls.
Okay, now we're talking about the service, and you've had a big service record, and let's talk about it. Would you first tell us, before you went to the service, tell us a little about your life in Hoosick Falls?
Well, I was born and raised in East Hoosick. I attended schools in Hoosick Falls, and at the time I went into the service, I was going to the Hoosick Falls High School.
I see. And when did you enter the service?
In 1945. I don't remember the exact date.
Yeah, but it was in 45.
Yeah.
And did you get drafted or did you enlist?
I was drafted into the Army and left from Albany, New York.
Right. And then what happened?
Then I went to Camp Wheeler in Macon, Georgia.
I see.
And I was there a couple of months, and that's all your training was then. And then I was sent home for 10 days. And then I was posted for overseas duty from Camp Pickett, Virginia. And while at Camp Pickett, Virginia, I met First Lieutenant Howard Haynes and his wife.
Oh.
And the Hayneses invited me to a Sunday dinner, and around midnight on Saturday, we shipped out for Europe.
I see.
So I missed dinner.
I see. But you were on troop transport and you went into England.
No, I went into Le Havre, France.
Le Havre, France.
Into what they, a replacement depot, which was into cigarette camps. Each camp was named after an American cigarette. Nowadays that would be against the law. But I was in Camp Herbert Tarrytown, and after that I was
what was the purpose of these camps?
Well, we were replacements for the units that were already there.
I mean, when you went in 45, was this before the armistice, before the...
Oh, yes, yes.
I see.
There was still fighting all over the place.
I see. So, all right, so you were in a replacement camp to fill in on the infantry in different places, right?
Yeah, and I was sent to H Company, 310th Infantry, 78th Division. And
where were they at the time?
They were somewhere around the Elbe River.
I see.
And we were sent almost immediately after I got there into Berlin, Germany to replace the 82nd Airborne Division.
See, so the Berlin had fallen, and you were going in as as keepers of the Berlin.
We were going in there as the occupying forces, part of them.
I see. Now you showed me some orders you had, and they were in Russian.
Yeah.
And give us a reason why they were in Russian.
Well, Berlin was surrounded by the Russians, and everybody thinks this is out of the ordinary, but everything you did, you travel, everything, you had to have permission from the Russians. So therefore, these are orders for me to travel, and they're written in Russian.
I see.
I couldn't read them,
Yeah.
but I could tell they were mine because my Army serial number's on them.
I see. And that's how, in order to travel, you had to, if they stopped you, you had to show
Yes.
them.
We also had what they call a 4-power pass. I couldn't find it today, but it was written in French, English, German, and Russian.
I see.
And we had to carry that at all times.
All right, when you were in Berlin, what was the duty of your outfit, other
Well,
than occupation?
When I was first there, the first job we had was guarding the Bahnhof station. That's the railroad station. And we were, I always think things are cute, but we were always just like a picture you'd see in a magazine of a GI with a rifle over his shoulder with a bayonet on it. And that's the way we walked around this big, enormous rail yard. And our job was to keep people from blowing things up and from stealing out of the boxcars that were there.
I see. All right, how long did you do that for, Ann?
Oh, that was probably for a couple of months.
All right, then what happened?
Then I went back to the company, after which I was assigned to a Russian prisoner of war camp. And what this was, we repatriated Germans that had been captured by the Russians. And we would process their paperwork, check on their background, and then send them to Frankfurt or wherever they were supposed to go. They were German soldiers and civilians that were captured by the Russians.
I see. And okay, so you had an interpreter there to help you out, and
Yeah.
and you did that for how long?
Well, each one of these assignments was for 2 or 3 months.
I see, 2 or 3 months.
And then they'd rotate you
All right, where'd you rotate next?
to the, I don't know what you call it, the Allied Control Authority. And this was a building where the Americans, the French, the British, and the Russians met on a daily basis to govern Berlin. And it was probably the most educational place I was ever in, because I got to see Marshal Zhukov, I got to see Churchill, Montgomery, Eisenhower, and the French president there. I think it was de Gaulle at the time.
De Gaulle, yeah. And you were in the same position. You had carried a gun. You were a guard. Is that it?
Yeah, just a guard at the
great
place. The infantry troops did most of the guarding.
I see.
The military police were there. In fact, George Scott from Hoosick Falls was a military policeman there. I tried to get to see him, but he was always out.
I see. All right, so then where did you rotate next? You worked at this building? And
well, then, let's see, I rotated to guarding General Eisenhower's headquarters and the headquarters for, I guess you'd call it the political people that came from the United States to govern Germany. And that was only a 2-month stint there.
I see.
But then I took and I was assigned to the Autobahn Patrol. Well, the Autobahn Patrol went from Berlin, Germany to Helmstedt, Germany, which was in the American zone. And it was 116 miles each way, and you did a round trip every day, 7 days a week, winter, summer.
And what was the purpose of the trip?
The purpose of our trip there was to safeguard the Allies. If you were on the road and you broke down, we were there to take care of you. You would stay in your vehicle till we got there, and then we would either fix your vehicle or we would take you with us. And we patrolled with 2 heavily armed jeeps, and a jeep in the wintertime without a windshield is an exciting thing. And an ambulance and a 10-ton wrecker. And that was, we could tow as many as 3 vehicles with that wrecker. But our job was to, as I say, take care of anybody that was on that Autobahn. And now that I see cars going 120 on it, I often wondered why they had us patrolling it with a Jeep that's maximum speed was 40 miles an hour.
Yeah. Well, okay, so here, now, where did they rotate you again? You've been in and out here. You've seen a lot of things.
Then, of course, we were on the Autobahn when the Russians closed it. And they called us on the radio, and they told us that the Russians had closed the Autobahn. And this was in 1948. And they said that if you can make it back to Berlin or Helmstedt, whichever you choose, we will try to help you. And we made it back to Berlin. We did a little rearranging on the way, but we made it back to Berlin, and 2 days or 3 days later, they started the Berlin Airlift. And then we were assigned to unload airplanes coming in. And in the case of the Berlin Airlift, one hit that runway every 3 minutes. And one took off every 3 minutes. And this was around the clock, 7 days a week. I was there when the C-54, nobody, and they still don't know what happened, come in. He never put his wheels down. He went right into a building at the end of the runway. But there was very few big disasters there, but
Yeah, well, there are a lot of planes going in every 3 minutes. I mean, it's a lot of airplanes going
well,
in.
people go down to the Albany Airport and they see one land about every 15 or 20 minutes. Well, stick 20 in between.
Yeah, it's quite a thing.
But this is what it was.
I see you were there through the whole Berlin airlift.
I was there. The airlift ended, I think, in November, and I left there in October.
Oh, so you're right there.
For Hoosick Falls.
And then you're getting out of the service, or what?
No, I came home for
furlough?
30 days, and then I was reassigned to Alaska, which to me was kind of a foolish thing, because if it's below 70, I'm cold. But I went up to the Aleutian Islands, and I was only there a month or so, and some guy come in and told us there was going to be a war in a country called Korea, and we were going to be invited. None of us knew where Korea was. Not one of us. So they loaded us on 2 transport planes and flew us to Japan, and we made an amphibious landing in Korea.
All right, now, when was this? The war broke out in August of '50, the Korean.
And it was in August of 1950.
That's when they shipped you into Japan.
That's when we made our
Yeah, and then you made an amphibious.
triumphant entrance into Korea.
I see, and that was a regular battle into against the North Koreans?
We didn't fight that day, but we did the next day.
I see.
We went charging out of the Busan perimeter and started north then.
I see.
And I fought in 3 major engagements between then and November. But I was assigned to the H Company, 5th Cavalry Regiment. Now, if you'll notice that they're all H Company, D Company, M Company. These are what they call heavy weapons companies. These are machine guns and heavy mortars. And that's what I was in. And they made us a mobile unit. Some of the other units were different, but we were a fast-moving unit.
All right, so you were in three engagements, and then what happened?
Well, we went up and we captured Seoul, and then we headed north again. We crossed the 38th parallel, and my unit was the first one to cross, and we were the first unit into Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea. From there we went north and to the Yellow River, and there was a bridge across it, and we weren't allowed to fire on that bridge for political reasons, I guess. But on November 28th, at about 5 o'clock in the morning, the bugles started blowing and the whistles, and they Chinese came across that bridge, and there was no way we could fight a battle like that, because what it looked like to me, and people probably think I'm crazy, it looked like Times Square on New Year's Eve. They were packed so tight trying to get across that bridge and get to us, that's what it looked like to me. And we were fired until we practically ran out of ammunition, and then we started to fall back, and at 12:30 that day I was severely wounded, and some of my friends threw me in the back of a 2.5-ton truck, and it wasn't that day nor the next, but the following day, 2 days later, I got to an aid station. It was the 25th Division aid station, and they left a pistol with me, and we fought a pretty good engagement right there in that aid station. And then the 25th Division moved me out of there to a highway somewhere. I don't know where, but I was picked up by the Greek Air Force and flown to, I believe it was down near Seoul someplace, to a hospital, and they said they couldn't do anything for me. So they flew me to Japan. And the doctor in Japan told me, he was in 361st Station Hospital in Tokyo, told me that they were going to fly me out immediately to Hawaii because I had lost a lot of blood, and there was no way they could repair me there. And with that, they flew me to Hawaii.
I see. Was it a shrapnel or was it a gun?
Oh, no,
wound,
no,
or?
machine gun
Machine
hit
gun.
me.
I see.
And a machine gun, not just one hit you, but
Yeah.
a number of them.
All right. So now they took you to Hawaii. Is that what you said?
Yeah, they took me to Tripler General Hospital in Honolulu, Hawaii. I don't remember the place, but
Yeah. How long were you there? I mean, how long did it take to get you?
they
back?
operated on me there.
I see.
And they shipped me out, I'd say 3 days later on a hospital plane to Brooks Medical Center
Oh, Brooks.
in San Antonio, Texas.
Yeah, that's a big one.
I never even heard of it.
Yeah, that's where the medical corps. That's where they train
Yeah.
people at Brooks.
But while I was there, and I never, of course I was in pretty tough shape and I never would have given it a thought, but I would like to have had a copy, because a colonel came in and I remember him standing at the bottom of the bed, and he read a letter that said, by order of the President of the United States, you are to be flown as close to home as possible immediately. And I figured, they'll do it someday. And they took me right out that day, and they put me on the biggest airplane I ever seen in my life. And I was the only patient on board. They had a doctor and a nurse and 2 corpsmen on there. And they flew me to Westover Field, Massachusetts.
Huh.
And at Westover Field, it was the first time I had ever seen a helicopter up close. And they put me in the glass bubble outdoors, and they flew me to Morphy Army Hospital in Waltham, Massachusetts. And that's where I stayed for, I'd say 3 or 4 months. And eventually, they wanted me to get so I could walk and do other things, so they sent me to Fort Benning, Georgia for the winter. And then from there I was sent to Valley Forge Army Hospital, where all the surgical work was done. I was in the hospital for a total of 2 years and 3 months.
2 years, 3 months. But I've known you for quite a while now,
Yeah.
Andy, and you can get around well, and
Yeah,
and you go around.
but it's, just recently, I was down to the Veterans Administration Hospital in Albany, and they told me that my hand and arm are deteriorating, and they were going to remove it, but now they've decided not to, and I guess I think I'm doing all right.
Yeah, you look good. Anyway, now what happened? You came, you were in the hospital all that time, and then you came back home after
Yeah.
you got you so you were mobile and
Yeah,
able to
I
get
went,
around.
they retired me from the Army. I'm retired from the Army.
I see.
I received an order. All these orders are in a safe deposit box, and I was too lazy to go get them. But it said that due to my inability to perform certain duties, that they were presenting my name for permanent retirement, which they did.
I see.
And when I wasn't looking, I retired from the Army. But when I come home, I went to work at the Waterville Arsenal.
And how long did you stay there?
About a year. And then they had an opening down here in the post office. And believe me, it's much better to drive to the post office than it is to the Waterville Arsenal.
That's for sure.
A lot closer.
Yeah. And then you worked, how long were you in the post office?
30 years.
30 years, because
Yeah.
I've had 3 others that worked in the post office
Yeah.
so far.
And the other thing I would like to say is that I had 5 brothers that were in the service.
Yeah, I saw a clipping of 4. I didn't know there was 5.
Yeah. Earl served in Europe. At one time, there was 5 of us in Europe. Earl, my oldest brother, who's deceased, was in the 29th Division. He made the D-Day and landing. My brother Bob, who's also deceased, was in the 26th Division, and he made the landing in southern France. John was with the 144th Ordnance Company, and he was in France. Marcus was in Europe with the 97th Division, and they're the only division in the country that was taken out of Europe and sent to the Pacific, and he served over there, and he was teaching school in Cato Meridian Central School, someplace in New York, and they gave him 2 hours to get to Rome Air Force Base, and he went to Korea.
Oh.
So he's one of the few people who fought in Europe, the Asiatic Pacific Theater, and Korea.
Your brother Marcus.
Yeah.
Is he alive or is
Huh?
deceased? Is Marcus alive?
Yeah, he's retired from the University of Southern California and lives in California.
I see.
And then there's Bill. We don't talk about Bill. He was a military policeman down in New York City. And if you have a brother that's a military policeman, you don't talk about him.
Oh, is that the way it goes? Look, you brought some your ribbons there. I'd like to zoom in on them and you explain them if you
Well, I
would.
don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, well, no, I don't know if I'll be able to see
No,
that.
that's all right.
But let me
That's-
zoom in and, all right, just to tell what it is, point to where your,
This is a copy of orders sending me, I guess, home. But I'm the second one down on the list. It is written totally in Russian, and we had to have these to travel at all.
I got it now. Okay, Andy. Get your thing there.
Now, I sent to the Department of Defense to ask them if I'd gotten any medals, and this is what they sent me.
Okay, now I got it good. Could you explain them if you would, Andy? And
Okay, the top one is the Combat Infantry Badge, and there's only one way you can get that, and that's to be in combat. The second one down is the Expert Infantry Badge, and that's a test you take. And now the first ribbon is a Bronze Star Medal with a V device and oak leaf cluster. That means I got it twice. The next one is the Purple Heart. The next one is the Good Conduct Medal. I don't know how I got that. The second row is the American Campaign, the European Campaign, and the World War II Victory Medal. The next one is the Occupation Medal with Plane, which was for the Berlin Airlift. And the medal, or the next ribbon, is the Medal for Humane Action. That's for the Berlin Airlift. The next one is National Defense. The third row is, let's see, one, two,
Fourth
three.
row.
Fourth row is the Korean Service Medal with 3 stars. That means 3 major engagements. The next one is the United Nations Medal. And then we rescued some people one time, and I got the Humanitarian Service Award. And the last row is the Army Service Ribbon, the Overseas Service Ribbon, and the New York State Conspicuous Service Medal. The 3 that are in gold frames, one is the Presidential Unit Citation, the next one, the red one, is the Meritorious Unit Citation, and the third one is the Korean Presidential Unit Citation, and the last 2 are the Belgium and French Croix de Guerre, which were given to all members of a unit. And my unit got it, so I got them home.
Well, that's great. Thank you. That's interesting. Now, before we call it quits, is there anything you'd like to say about, you know, things you remember, or about Hoosick Falls or anything? They'll go on tape. This is going to be,
Well, no,
we're going to be showing these. So
the only person I, believe it or not, ever met from Hoosick Falls was my own brother.
yeah, when did
I met my brother John over in Europe. But out of all the people from Hoosick Falls wandering around the world, I never met a one.
I see.
And that's almost strange, because I thought, sure, you know, I'd meet a lot of people.
Yeah, well, I've talked to quite a few veterans, and not too many did meet other
Yeah.
people, it seems.
Some of them did, some of them didn't.
Yeah. But you did look for George Scott, you said.
I went, George Scott was a member of the 759th MPs, and I went down with a patrol vehicle one day to see if I could find him, and he was out somewhere, so I didn't get to see him.
Right.
And being on that Autobahn Patrol, I never got back to look for him.
Well, Andy, I'll tell you, that was you really served your country and served us all, and I thank you very much for coming. It was a wonderful tale, and I'm glad you were here to tell it to us.
A great education, too.
Yeah, yeah. Anything else?